Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto knew his parents from childhood. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by TheNarutoGeek and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto was never a morning person. He hated early morning missions and he hated getting up early. Today was, however, different. He woke up to the sound of chirping of birds, to the morning chaos that the village hidden in the leaves was, feeling fresh, content and happy. And why not? He had mastered the genius fourth Hokage's jutsu in merely a week, got Konoha a new Hokage, and most of all, he was proud of himself for this. But no one knew about the one regret that was eating him from the inside. The regret for not being able to bring Sasuke back and not being able to keep his promise to Sakura. He never let that regret cloud his cheerful demeanor though. As always, he pushed that thought at the back of his head, hoping for the best because he believed in himself. He wished the village will finally recognize him and his powers because he had suffered enough for the sake of it. He jumped out from his bed, did his usual morning chores, put on his trademark orange jumpsuit and set off hoping to aid his village in these tough times. However, he had no idea that this day was not his average normal day that he was expecting. Tsunade was in her new office, which was radiating with the morning sunshine and was brightened with the sounds of birds, which gave the rather gloomy place a seemingly nice and fresh environment. Completely oblivious to the cheerful and busy streets of Konoha, the goddamn Hokage was sleeping soundly amidst the piles of papers and books which covered her whole desk. She was never the type for paperwork anyway. Hey Bachan. Wake up already. Tsunade got up from her desk startled and almost tripped on the chair on the other side of the table. Naruto. How many times have I told you to use the door, you little brat? Tsunade yelled at the 12-year-old. She sounded half furious and half sleepy. Naruto chuckled from the window he was crouched upon and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Well, it's a lot faster this way Tebeo. He said, not really caring about the look on Tsunade's face. Anyways, you told me yesterday to come by your office today in the morning, regarding a mission. What's the mission? Asked Naruto climbing down from the window and standing in front of the desk. About that. Said Tsunade, relaxing her muscles and sitting down on her desk again. We found a somewhat interesting artifact just outside Konoha and are trying to figure out what it really does, answered Tsunade, taking out a sheet of paper from the piles of documents on the desk. An artifact? Is it some super old device or something? Questioned Naruto with a confused look on his office. We don't know about that till now. That's why we've gathered some shinobi to look in the matter. We've set up a site near the artifact for the shinobi to work upon because the artifact is seemingly unmovable. Answered Tsunade, checking the report in front of her. That means you're sending me to be a part of that shinobi team? For real? Yes. I knew you recognized my intelligence, Bachan. Naruto literally started jumping around the office in joy and commenting to himself about how he has started getting the intellectual missions. What are you talking about? You've to go to the site with food and other essential tools and equipment needed for the research. It's a D-rank mission. What? D-rank? What the hell, Bachan? And here I thought you were the best Hokage Konoha ever had. Naruto deadpanned on the floor with all his hopes shattered into tiny pieces. And well, Tsunade didn't really seem to care about that. What do you mean? You've been on a break for some time now and I thought D-rank would be the best for you now. Anyhow, pick up the supplies at the village gate and head to the site ASAP. Ordered Tsunade with a rather cheerful expression on her face. Yeah, whatever. Naruto dragged himself out of the office and headed for the gate to complete his boring and lame mission that he thought it was. The artifact was, according to Naruto, a plain old box which was nothing really special. Upon close examination, one could see that it was sealed with some kind of barrier. But it was no ordinary barrier. Every attempt made by the shinobi was in vain because there were seemingly no loopholes in the barrier. What's so special about this box anyway? Naruto thought out loud while lazily lying on the ground observing the shinobi trying to open the box, or at least, trying to move it. He was ordered to stay there so as to aid the shinobi by bringing them anything they needed by going back and forth from the village to the site, which he had to unwillingly agree to. Several hours later, when all shinobi almost gave up on the box, Naruto got up from his place. He was bored to bits and it was really irritating him. What is this stupid box anyway? I could have used all this time to get clues about Sasuke or Orochimaru. Hell. I could have trained rather than sitting here all day waiting for this box to open. Not heeding to the cries of the other ninja around him, he made a shadow clone and started forming a Rasengan. It didn't matter if the box didn't open. He'll just break the box open and end this mission here. With these thoughts in mind, he slammed the Rasengan on the box. And then, something very unexpected happened. The barrier on the box started growing brightly and eventually started getting unsealed. The box seemed to respond to Naruto's chakra and it opened with a blinding white light which impaired the vision of every shinobi present there. Wow, what the hell is happening? Naruto asked himself while the white light started engulfing him. He felt his gut being twisted and his whole body being sucked into the light. Before he could have made a move to escape, he was in a completely other dimension with white light all around him. He felt his consciousness fading. It was as if someone had sucked all his chakra out of him. What is this feeling? What is happening? Growled a very angry fox in the deep depths of Naruto's mind. Before anyone could make a move, Naruto was gone, leaving the now empty box in the area while the horrified shinobi just gaped at each other with shock. Minato Namikaze was having a rather uneventful day in his office. Damn the paperwork. Thought the fourth Hokage of Konohagakure. He was too young for all this. When he was declared the Hokage 2 days ago, he didn't bother to think he signed up for the paperwork as well. When he took the oath of protecting the village, he didn't know he'll have to deal with the documents before dealing with the enemy. And here he was, sitting on his desk and signing documents, which seemed to increase every minute. Unknown to him, his day was going to get very interesting now. He heard a knock on his door while he was busy battling with the paper in front of him. Expecting another pile of documents, he had an urge to send back whoever was knocking on the door. It's still my duty though. Thinking so, he uttered a barely audible "come in." The visitor was a Chunin who was on guard duty at the village gates. Minato instantly cheered up when he saw the Chunin didn't have any kind of file or paper with him. "Okage-sama, a situation requires your immediate attention, if possible," said the Chunin slightly bowing in respect to the yondaime. "What is the matter?" asked Minato with his ever-cheerful and sweet demeanor. "We found an unconscious body just outside Konoha. It seems to be of a young shinobi, about 12 to 13 years of age," replied the Chunin with a serious yet calm look on his face. "Go on," ordered Minato, the situation immediately piquing his interest. "About 30 minutes ago, we saw a bright light emanating not so far from the village. When we went there to inspect, we found the unconscious kid there. He doesn't possess anything special though. Regular kunai, shurikens and other ninja tools. What perked our interest though, that he had a Konoha headband on his forehead. But none of us seemed to recognize the kid. We've never seen him around the village," replied the Chunin with a calculative look on his face. Minato's head started forming possibilities. Yes, the war was over. But, can the kid be a spy? Or can it be a plot by the enemy to use the kid to infiltrate the village? His heart said that a 12-year-old can't be capable of something like this. But his mind considered all the possibilities. They were shinobi. Anything is possible in this world. "Where's the kid now?" asked Minato with a calm look on his face. "We've sent him to the hospital for examination. He was unconscious, after all," replied the Chunin. "Alright. Check for any genjutsu or transformation jutsu on the kid. Notify me immediately when he's awake." "Yes, sir." The Chunin left after paying his respects to the Hokage. "I hope it all turns out good. I don't want any trouble in these peaceful times. The village has suffered enough." With his hopes held high, Minato went back to his paperwork. White ceiling, the familiar smell of medicines and solutions, people dressed in white. Yup, he was in a hospital alright. Naruto opened his eyes in the familiar environment he had been in number of times. His head felt dizzy, but his body felt okay. He started recalling as to what brought him here. With some difficulty, he finally recalled the whole incident. It was all because of that stupid box. He was stuck in that white light and ended up in the hospital. He remembered the feeling he had in his stomach and it almost made him sick again. He wondered what was that light anyway. He decided to ask Tsunade later. He slowly got up from his bed, struggling a little because of the dizziness in his head. He looked around hoping to find someone familiar to explain the situation. "So, how are you feeling, kid? Any kind of pain or nausea?" Naruto's eyes met with a woman smiling at him. She was a medic nin, he could tell that. But he didn't recognize her. No, not really. My head is a little messed up though, it's feeling kinda dizzy," replied Naruto with a smile of his own. "Oh, I see. I'll administer some medicines then. Don't worry, you'll get better in no time. Your recovery speed is amazing though. We didn't expect you to wake up for a week or two," replied the medic nin expressing some amazement in her voice. I know that already. I only need a good night's sleep to bayo," grinned Naruto. The medic nin quirked up an eyebrow at the unusual verbal tick. It kinda felt familiar to her. "Anyways, what about that stupid artifact outside the village? It's because of that box that I ended up here, you know. What was in that box anyway?" asked Naruto, completely unaware of his situation. "Artifact? What are you talking about, kid? There's no artifact or a box in or out of the village. As for you, we found you outside the village unconscious and brought you here. Come to think of it, what happened to you anyway, were you on a mission?" replied the woman, looking at Naruto as if he was crazy. Naruto was very confused now. How can this woman not know about the artifact? The whole village did. And why is it that this place seems familiar, but not exactly like his Konoha? This is Konoha, right? Asked Naruto, doubting himself a little now. Well, yes it is. Kid, you don't seem okay. Is there a problem? Asked the medic Nin, a little concerned about Naruto. Before Naruto could answer, he heard footsteps outside the door, and when he turned towards the door, he saw a tall, blonde, spiky-haired, handsome man with cerulean blue eyes looking at him with a smile on his face. The man had a long white cloak on his back with a Konoha Jonin vest underneath the cloak. Naruto looked at the man, and he could tell immediately that the man was a strong shinobi, given the way he carried himself, and he could see the confidence in his gentle eyes. He seemed to be in his early to mid-20s. Minato entered the room after getting the confirmation that the child was in no form a fake or a transformed shinobi. He still had his doubts though. Did the kid belong to Konoha or was he an outsider? When he entered, he was really surprised, though he didn't let it show on his face. The kid was like a miniature version of himself. Blonde, spiky-haired, with almost the same blue eyes like his. And the child had some marks on his cheeks that resembled whiskers. He felt the face shape and the features resembling someone he knew, but he couldn't figure out who. Anyways, he entered the room and gave the kid a smile. He saw that the kid was looking confused and he wondered why. Before anyone could say anything, two people entered the room after Minato. One of them was a tall and strongly built man with long white hair that reached down his back. He was carrying a large scroll with him and he had two red marks that ran down his cheeks. He was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his mid-30s. He wore a red jacket over a green-colored mesh armor and matching green pants. He wore a headband which had the symbol of Bura written on it, which meant oil. The other one was a beautiful woman with long bright red hair that ran down her waist. Her hair was the most striking feature in her appearance. She had a slim and slender figure with a round face and green eyes. She was wearing a high-collared sleeveless blouse with a long loose-fitting white and purple-colored dress. She looked to be in her early to mid-20s. Jiraiya-sensei. Kushina. What are you two doing here? Asked Minato, who was a little surprised to see the two of them here. Yo. Long time no see, Minato. Well, you see, your wife had some work with you, so she came by the Hokage office to meet you. As for me, I just returned from the mission in the Land of Waves. We both were looking for you. Your secretary then informed us that you had to visit the hospital. Said Jiraiya with his everlasting cheerfulness and carefree nature. Yeah. What are you doing in the hospital anyway, Minato? Asked Kushina with a questioning look on her face. Hirosenin. Everyone was now looking at Naruto, who was pointing his finger at Jiraiya and grinning from ear to ear. Hirosenin. Repeated Kushina and then burst out laughing. Minato, who was first taken aback by the suddenness, was also laughing along with her now. The medic Nin was trying to suppress her laughter at first but gave up in the end anyway. Everyone in the room, except Jiraiya, was laughing, splitting their ends. Hey? What did you see? Call me you brat. Jiraiya asked, still taken aback by the new nickname he just got. After what seemed like an eternity, everyone regained their composure. Oh my god. Hirosenin. How fitting. Said Kushina, wiping the tears off her face. Haha, who is this mini version of you, Minato? I never laughed so hard in my life before this, you know. Why yes, who's this brat? Jiraiya asked, pouting. Well, I don't know either as of now. Maybe, we should ask him. Replied Minato, now coming back from his fit of laughter. Naruto was taken aback now. Nobody recognizes him. Why is the Hirosenin refusing to recognize him? Boy. Hirosenin. You recognize me, don't you? You're kidding, right? Naruto asked, giving his foxy grin. Stop calling me that, kid. And, what are you talking about? I've never met you until now. Retorted Jiraiya. Minato saw the confused look on Naruto's face. He knew something wasn't right. The kid seemed to recognize Jiraiya. But how? He decided to take the initiative. Well, before that, where are my manners? We didn't introduce ourselves till now, right? I'm Namikaze Minato. It's a pleasure to meet you. Said Minato with a smile on his face. Namikaze Minato? You are? Naruto went wide-eyed. Oh. Looks like you've become famous, Minato. Even kids know your name by heart now. Commented Jiraiya, making Minato rub his head sheepishly. Who are you? Asked Naruto innocently. Minato's sweat dropped. Kushina again went into a fit of laughter and this time it was Jiraiya who joined her. Ah well, Minato couldn't say anything beyond that. He's the fourth Hokage of Konoha, kid. Answered Kushina with a smile. Fourth Hokage? Hahaha. What are you talking about? The fourth Hokage died 12 years ago while fighting the nine-tailed fox. Don't you know that? Answered Naruto, laughing all the time as if he was stating the obvious. The rest of the room went deathly silent. They stared wide-eyed at the kid before them. They didn't know what to say. What are you talking about, kid? asked Kushina, extremely confused. What? How can you not know that? The whole world knows that. The fourth was the greatest hero of all time. He fought the nine-tailed fox and saved Konoha. See, his face is on the Hokage Mound. Naruto went silent after that. He looked through the window of the hospital to see that there were only 3 faces on the mountain. He was beyond shocked to see that. How was this even possible? Why isn't the Yondame's face up there? Minato had now started connecting the dots in his head. He was now certainly sure that the kid belonged to Konoha. But not this Konoha. Only one answer came to his mind, but it was highly improbable. He had to confirm his suspicion. Kid, when's your birthday? Asked Minato, with a serious but calm voice. What does it have to do with this? Jiraiya was cut off in between when Minato gestured him to listen to the answer. 10th October, 372 SY replied Naruto. Everyone in the room, except Minato, gasped in shock. That date was almost 12 years in the future. They were currently living in the 360 SY. They finally understood what was happening. They were not ready to believe it. But when they looked towards Minato, he nodded his head in confirmation. All of their doubts had been answered. Though it was highly improbable, it was true. Kushina and Jiraiya looked towards the kid. They now started to understand why the kid was so confused and scared. Kushina went near the kid and ruffled his hair gently. She didn't know why, but she felt a connection to the kid. She wanted to comfort him and tell him that it's gonna be fine. Naruto, his head full of doubts, looked towards her and asked, what's going on? Why is it that nobody recognizes me? Minato felt really sorry for the kid. When he looked deep in the eyes of the kid, he saw loneliness. Under that smiling and bright face, the kid had a terrible past and he could see it. Not to make his life more miserable, he answered Naruto. It's gonna be fine, kid. Don't worry. Nobody has forgotten you. And this is Konoha. As for some details, we'll explain it to you as soon as you get out of the hospital. Okay. He said while ruffling the kid's hair gently. Naruto smiled a little first, but after seeing the smiling faces of the people around him, gave his trademark foxy grin. Everyone chuckled a little. Seeing the kid happy gave them a sense of relief. But they had the task of figuring out as to how did Naruto end up here and about the future that the kid mentioned. Yeah. I've already recovered though, Databeo. Answered Naruto with a smile. Everybody was really surprised with the kid's unusual verbal tick. Jiraiya and Minato turned towards Kushina, who was looking at Naruto, looking really surprised. They didn't know someone else had a tick like Kushina did. They all started laughing, to Naruto's confusion, about the coincidence. By the way, you didn't tell us your name till now, kid. What's your name? Asked Kushina, with a smile. Uzumaki Naruto. Databeo. Uzumaki Naruto. Databeo. Replied Naruto, flashing his foxy grin. Kushina's beautiful smile slowly faded away. She went wide-eyed and looked at the kid in utter shock and surprise. You was Uzumaki. Repeating the word again and again in her mind, she now desperately wanted an explanation. Her mind was too clouded for thinking of an explanation. Saying that Minato and Jiraiya were shocked will be a huge understatement. Uzumaki, but Kushina was the last of the thought, both Jiraiya and Minato, but they stopped their line of thought when they realized. Jiraiya was the first to regain his composure. His lips slightly quirked up in a small smile. This world is full of surprises. Who would have thought? He took a glance towards Minato and Kushina, who were rooted in their places. Both were gaping at the smiling kid with priceless expressions. Uzumaki Naruto, he knew what that meant. And he was sure the couple in the room are having a hard time comprehending it. The ever-rational thinker Minato was literally stumped after hearing the little kid. He wished he could start connecting the pieces in his mind like he always did when he came across anything which was extraordinary. But not this time. Uzumaki Naruto, it was supposed to be just a name, but it implied so many things. Uzumaki. From the future. He knew what that implied, but he just wasn't ready to come up with the ultimate conclusion. Kushina's expression was unchanged. She still had that look on her face that adorned her when she heard the kid. Could it be, is this kid my enough with the guesses, she thought. She'll just ask the kid directly. What's the matter, you guys? You look like you've seen a ghost. Commented Naruto casually. Still smiling and placing his hands at the back of his head. Kid, are you? Kushina was stopped by the medic nin in between. I'm really sorry, but it's way past the visiting hours. The patient should rest now. We need to run some tests now. Commented the medic nin, much to Kushina's annoyance. We just need 5 more minutes. She was interrupted again, but this time by Minato, who seemed to have recovered from this unexpected turn of events. She's right, Kushina. We should go now. We'll come back tomorrow. We need to talk about many things anyway. Said Minato, smiling a little. Kushina gave up this time. She knew what Minato meant. But unlike him, she still wasn't sure as to what she should make for this situation. She looked back at Naruto, who was looking back and forth between all the people in the room, trying to figure out what was happening. Reluctantly, she got up, headed towards the door, with hundreds of things running in her mind. She wasn't sure what this feeling was. Later kid. We'll come back tomorrow. You'll be discharged by then anyway. Take care. Jiraiya looked at Naruto and smiled, who grinned in return. Minato and Kushina headed to the door, looked back at the boy, and smiled. They left the room and headed back to the tower. But before going back, there was one thing they had to do. Excuse me, I'd like to request a paternity test for the child who has been admitted today. And this information should not, in any case, get out from this room. Minato, is it what I think it is? Is Naruto my as he are? Kushina was frantic and really desperate as of now for answers. She knew somewhere in her heart that it was true, she just wanted someone else to say it too. The next day, they were in Minato's office at the Hokage Tower, standing near the window, facing each other. The file with the test results was in Minato's hands. They had a lot on their minds, and it was time to let it all out. What are you talking about, Kushina? There's no need for an explanation or a stupid test anyway. You're the last of the Uzumakas. And that kid is from the future, who's in Uzumaki. It all adds up. He's your son. Replied Jiraiya, grinning, with a hint of obviousness in his voice. Minato nodded his head, smiling, and staring off in space. He looked at the sheet of paper. Matched a word was printed in big block letters. It was such a sudden feeling. He was a father in the future. And he just met his future son. Kushina's expression said all she had in her mind. She was smiling, and her face had a bright and gentle look, thinking about her son. She recalled Naruto's face and noticed he looked just like Minato, but at the same time, he was so much like she was. He acted like she did when she was young, and he seemed to be such a bright and cheerful kid. She was having this warm and gooey feeling in her stomach. Her motherly instincts were kicking in even though she wasn't a mother yet. She just wanted to meet him again. But if he's your son, why doesn't he recognize the both of you? It was funny as how no one even noticed this. With all the emotions running wild in them, they didn't bother to think of the future the kid just told them. The question first crossed Jiraiya's mind, and then suddenly, there was panic all around. What do you mean? Kushina was panicking again. But this question was something that could not be overlooked. She was definitely sure that Naruto was her son, then why didn't he recognize her? He recognized Jiraiya, but then why not her and Minato? Minato tensed after hearing this question. He thought back to the meeting with Naruto, and then it suddenly struck him. Fourth Hokage. Hahaha. What are you talking about? The fourth Hokage died 12 years ago while fighting the nine-tailed fox. Don't you know that? He didn't know what to feel about this situation. He knew he was a shinobi. Being a shinobi meant being surrounded by death all the time. He always thought that if he had to give his life for the village, he gladly will. But, listening about his own death gave him a feeling of uneasiness and dread. Dread, because his death meant that his son grew up without a father. That's because I die in the near future. Minato said these words with a straight face, void of any kind of emotions. Don't you remember Naruto mentioning about the fourth Hokage? Kushina and Jiraiya were stunned for a moment. Kushina, now no longer able to control herself, started sobbing softly. It was too much for her to take in suddenly. And if Naruto doesn't remember Minato because he was dead, there was only one reason coming to her mind now as to why Naruto does not recognize her. And it looks like something happened to me as well. She managed to utter these words while crying her heart out now. They were not weeping because they were dead in the future, but they were weeping because they left him alone, their son alone to face this cruel world. What happened to us anyway? How old was Naruto when we? He doesn't even know us. Kushina was weeping in Minato's arms now. Minato was not doing well himself. He wasn't crying, but his heart was racing. He wanted to know what happened. He wanted to know the reason why his son was left alone without any parents. Your kid, he isn't some ordinary kid, you know. It was Jiraiya who started speaking. He felt sorry for Minato and Kushina, and knowing they'll die in the near future, he felt a little broken. But, he decided not to take just the negatives from this situation. Surely, it seems like he grew up without parental love. But, he seems so positive and cheerful. Maybe he must have had someone else to take care of him, or maybe he's so strong that he went through all of this alone, by himself. Jiraiya said, with a slight bit of admiration in his voice. He wasn't saying these words just to comfort Minato and Kushina, but he said these words because he believed it. Jiraiya's words were straight to the point. Minato and Kushina couldn't help but think about this. He was right. Their son, he was so bright and warm. They wondered where he got the strength for remaining so positive from. They came out of their emotionally turbulent situation and took a moment to admire their son. If he really was so strong to live through the hardships all by himself, they were nothing but proud of him, really proud. Well, there's only one way of finding it out. What do you think? Shall we go now? To meet him? grinned Jiraiya. Minato and Kushina smiled. Kushina wiped her tears and sat up. She didn't want her son to see her like that. And she wanted to meet her son. Know all about him. They headed out of the tower towards the hospital. They just hope that everything will turn out good. But I don't like soup. The only soup I like is ramen soup. They heard Naruto's voice from outside the room. They were entering the room when they stopped hearing Naruto's voice. Kushina smiled. Ramen. That was familiar. They finally entered the room to see Naruto running around the room, whining and escaping from a very exhausted medic Nin, who had a hot bowl of tomato soup in her hands. They couldn't help but chuckle seeing the scene in front of them. "Hey kid. Listen to the lady. You won't get better if you don't," said Jiraiya, crossing his arms and smiling. Both the Chaser and the one being chased stopped and looked towards the door. "Oh. Hiro Sennin. You're back," shouted Naruto, grinning much to Jiraiya's annoyance and everyone else's amusement. "Hey. Cut it out kid," huffed Jiraiya, pouting. Yeah whatever. "Oh, and you guys are here too," smiled Naruto, folding his arms behind his neck, referring to the blonde man and the red-haired lady. Minato and Kushina gave a warm smile to Naruto. But at the same time, it made them a little sad that their own son didn't know them. This was it. They had to tell him. But they were nervous. Not even 100 enemy ninja made them nervous. But this was something far greater than facing 100 ninja. They'll take their time. They did not want to rush over something so delicate and important. "How have you been, Naruto?" asked Minato, flashing a smile. "I'm perfectly fit. I was the same yesterday when you came to visit. But this lady doesn't believe me. She's trying to make me eat that gross stuff tebeo," replied Naruto, grimacing seeing the tomato soup in the medic's hands. "You shouldn't be choosy when you're sick, Naruto. But you're right. Tomato soup is gross tebane," commented Kushina with half a smile. Tomato oh. How much she hated that word. It reminded her of her not so pleasant childhood when she was picked upon because of her hair. "Haha. I know. It really is. Tebane," said Naruto with a questioning look on his face. "Tebane, this lady spoke like him." Kushina smiled sheepishly, rubbing the back of her head, realizing that it had slipped out. She tried to control it. She didn't really want her son to know of her weird speech pattern. Well, it's kinda like your tebeo, Naruto," said Kushina. Smiling sheepishly. "Oh. I see. Don't worry. It sounds awesome," replied Naruto, grinning widely. Kushina and the rest of the room burst out laughing hearing this. Kushina looked fondly at her son and ruffled his hair. He was really just like her in almost every way. "By the way, your hair," Naruto spoke up, looking a bit serious. He was looking at Kushina's fiery red hair with a straight face. Oh? Well, what about it?" asked Kushina, keeping a small smile on her face, but she was really nervous now. People's opinions about her hair were not very good in the past. Though she had learned not to mind people, she was still a little sensitive about her hair. She was worried as to what her son thinks about them. They're so beautiful," Naruto chirped happily, grinning wide. Kushina was taken aback with the sudden change of emotion. "They're so cool. I wish I had hair like that," commented Naruto, smiling. Kushina was now smiling with him. Not that she would have loved her son less if he said otherwise. But hearing those words from Naruto made her love him even more. Everyone in the room smiled fondly at the two Uzumakas. Minato, especially, knew what Kushina's hair meant to her. He was glad that Naruto said those words. Thank you so much, Naruto," Kushina said with warmth and love in her voice as she cupped her hands on the whisker-marked cheeks of little Naruto. Naruto, who wasn't really used to such affection, didn't say anything though and just smiled back at her. He didn't know why, but he liked the warmth and affection that the kind lady showed towards him. He wondered why she was so kind to him but didn't bother to think too much about it. His thoughts were interrupted when Jiraiya spoke up. "Well, looks like we're done with the greetings. Now, Naruto, do you remember about yesterday? The stuff about the fourth Hokage and the stone faces?" asked Jiraiya with seriousness in his voice. It was time, he thought, that the kid knows about everything that's happening. Naruto suddenly remembered about yesterday and his mind was again filled with doubts and confusion. He looked towards Minato, who was supposed to be the dead legendary fourth Hokage, and looked back at the stone faces, which according to him was missing one stone face. "Yeah. I do now. What's going on?" asked Naruto, a little nervous and a little hopeful. He wanted all the doubts lurking in his mind to disappear once and for all. "Well, I'll tell this straight. It may seem unbelievable at first, but try to understand. Don't panic. Okay?" asked Jiraiya. Naruto straightened himself and gave a slight nod. He wondered what made the Hiro Sennin become so serious. "You have traveled to the past, Naruto. This is Konohagakure, but not exactly the Konoha you know," answered Minato, calmly trying not to freak out his son. "You're 12 years back in the past, Naruto." Everybody was waiting silently for Naruto's reaction. They expected denial, worry, or Naruto laughing it off, thinking it was a joke. But till now, they were met with only silence. Naruto's head was bent down, his face covered with his blonde hair. "You're not kidding, are you?" This surprised all the people present in that room. Naruto was unexpectedly calm and composed. He looked up towards everybody with a mature look on his face. To say, he was not surprised or shocked to hear that will be a total lie. He was absolutely stunned on listening to what he was being told and he wanted to ignore it like a joke. But then he thought back. Thought back to yesterday's events. The dead fourth Hokage showing up, his face missing from the wall, no one recognizing him and now, the explanation being given to him. It all kinda fits in. If he is in the past, then that will explain the other things that happened to him here. But still, he'll have to be sure of it. "No, Naruto, we are not. We know, it's kinda hard to believe it at first but try to." Minato was cut off in between by Naruto. "No, it's okay. I understand. A lot of crazy things do happen around me, you know. Maybe this is one of them. And now that you mention it, it seems true. I still can't fully believe it, though. Time travel, haha, I only saw this stuff in movies and fiction before. It seems so." He fell short of words. He didn't know what to do now. Hell, nobody will if they know they've come to the past. He was getting nervous now, he didn't know what he was supposed to say or do. Minato bent down on one knee to Naruto's level and placed his hands on his shoulders with a concerned look on his face. He wanted Naruto to feel better, but he didn't know how. It was too much for a child to absorb, he knew that. But it was important for Naruto to fully understand what was going on. "I don't really know what to say, Naruto. First of all, you've been really amazing about the way you handled the news. I'm really glad. Secondly, everything you've heard now is true. I know, you're trying hard to accept it. Don't think too much, Naruto. We'll find a way out. You don't have to worry about what to do or what not to. We'll get through everything. All in good time. Okay?" Minato tried his very best in comforting Naruto, though he himself wasn't sure as to what he should make for this situation. But it looks he succeeded in it because he saw Naruto smiling at him. "Yeah. I get it. Thanks." Naruto smiled now, trying to get over his situation. He felt a lot relieved now. The Yondame's words gave him hope, gave him determination. He decided to fight, like he always did with his problems, and he knew he'll win again. Kushina and Jiraiya smiled seeing Naruto coming back to being himself. As for Minato, he was proud of his son. He was proud that his son handled such a complicated situation in such an amazing manner. But now was the real test. It was time they tell Naruto. It was time they tell him how he got his name. "Naruto, there is one more thing you should know. Naruto, there is one more thing that you should know." Kushina felt her heart pounding. The moment the words left her mouth, she felt herself shudder. This was the moment of truth. Not only for Naruto, but even for her and Minato. She was worried about Naruto. Worried because she didn't know how he'll react or for the matter, even believe them. She wanted to blurt out everything she had on her mind. The only thing holding her back was her 12-year-old son sitting in front of her. She didn't want to scare him. She just wanted her son to be at ease. "What is it?" Naruto asked her casually, unaware of the situation. But he didn't miss the worried and serious expressions on the faces of the people around him. He wondered why. "Before that, Naruto, would you mind telling us a little about yourself?" Minato suddenly asked the smaller blonde with a cheerful yet calm voice. Kushina and Jiraiya frowned in doubt and looked towards Minato, who asked the question out of the blue. "Just briefly. You don't have to tell us in detail now. We'll talk later about it and tell each other about ourselves. Okay?" They wondered why Minato was beating around the bush instead of coming to the point. Then realization struck them. Courtesy of the paternity test, they knew that they were Naruto's parents. And since Naruto didn't recognize them, they figured out that he didn't know them and something unfortunate has happened in the future. They had reluctantly come to a possible conclusion that they may be dead. But what about Naruto? They overlooked the fact that maybe Naruto must have been adopted. There was always a chance, wasn't it? He is the son of the fourth Hokage. People must have come forward to take him in. If that was the case, then Naruto may have parents in the future. And if they suddenly declare themselves to be his parents, that will make the situation really complicated and may frighten the already confused child who has ended up in the past. Kushina gave a slight nod of affirmation to Minato. She was impatient and didn't think carefully about the situation. This was a very sensitive issue for Naruto. She decided to be more careful now because eventually the truth will be out. And she'll make sure to try her best in handling the situation. Even Naruto was a little taken back by the sudden question. He looked around himself at the faces of the people there and saw their expressions changing. Weird, he thought. Nonetheless, he answered the question normally. "Ah well, I'm 12 years old. I'm a genin. I graduated earlier this year. I mean in the present year from where I come from. Naruto laughed sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. Kushina, who had leaned closer to Naruto when he started talking, smiled warmly at him. She was happy that his son was so bright and cheerful. I wasn't really good at the academy and always messed up. But still, I pulled through and graduated. Since I wasn't very good, I trained hard and went on many missions. I know I have a long way to go, but I think I'm pretty good to Bayo. Grinned Naruto. This made everybody smile, and they let out a small chuckle on the blonde's antics. I made a lot of friends in the process. I want to be strong to be able to protect them. And I'm prepared for anything that comes my way. A small smile came on Jireya's face. You really are Minato's son. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, and he could almost see Minato's reflection in him. He didn't seem very smart, unlike Minato. But he knew he inherited Minato's will and determination. That one sentence was enough to confirm that. Jiraiya looked at the couple, who were looking at Naruto with pride and amazement. They weren't technically parents yet. But seeing their future son make a statement like that filled them with joy. They knew he probably wasn't raised by them, but nonetheless, they were already proud of their son. He was only 12 years old, but he already had a sense of responsibility towards his friends and loved ones. And he loved Raymond. Naruto cheered out loud. Minato and Kushina were pleasantly surprised, and the whole gang burst out laughing. Everybody in the village knew that the yondaime and his wife were ramen junkies. Jiraiya quirked up an eyebrow at the kid's statement. Man, it runs in the family. Minato and Kushina were happy and surprised at the same time. They were filled with joy seeing that their son was alike to them in almost every way. Minato's willpower, Kushina's playfulness, and of course the other thing that they both loved besides each other, Raymond. I know, right? Raymond is awesome, Tebane. Kushina exclaimed, playfully patting Naruto's head. Naruto let out a huge grin. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much about me. I don't know what else to say. Naruto said, smiling sheepishly. The three adults looked at each other. No, that wasn't pretty much it. Because Naruto was missing one very important detail. They were hoping that Naruto would tell them during his talk. But they'll have to ask him directly now. And they didn't want to do that. The detail about his parents. Naruto, what about your home? Kushina asked Naruto with a small smile, masking the nervousness in her voice. Huh? I live in Konoha. You guys know that, don't you? Naruto said with a questioning face, oblivious of the true meaning of the question. No. I mean, about your parents. Kushina finally asked the question. The moment she finished, she was filled with fear and worry. Worried about Naruto's reaction. She wasn't sure if that was the right way of approaching the topic. She just prayed to God that everything will be fine. Naruto will be fine. But it seemed her prayers didn't quite reach the Almighty. She saw her son's face fall. Blonde hair covering his face. The same boy who was loud and cheerful just a moment ago became deathly silent. Kushina was horrified. Minato and Jiraiya had the same feelings that Kushina did. Minato saw his son's expression changing. His fears had come true. He wished Kushina hadn't asked the question now. But it was too late. He braced himself for what was about to come. Kushina was about to reach for her child to comfort him when she saw Naruto lifting his head up. It took some time for her to absorb the expression Naruto had on his face. He was smiling, or was he? Because it wasn't a real one. It was the saddest smile she ever saw on somebody's face. Guilt starting to consume her, her heart wrenched seeing him like that. He didn't need to say anything, for anyone could have predicted the answer seeing the longing and loneliness on his face. I don't know. I never knew them. The old man third Hokage said they died the day I was born. I'm an orphan. Deathly silence filled the room. One could even hear the blood rushing in their veins. Jiraiya closed his eyes in despair and looked down. He couldn't bear to see Minato and Kushina's faces now. He didn't want to. He always knew them being the liveliest couple ever. And he knew that if he looked up now, he'll only see the liveliness being sucked out of them. Minato and Kushina's faces had gone blank. The flow of time had stopped for them. They died the day I was born. The words echoing in their mind again and again in an endless loop. They had figured out the possibility of them being dead before coming here. And they thought they were ready to hear that. But the day he was born, they were not ready for that. No one in the world could have been ready for that. They were standing there like mannequins, with the guilt of leaving their son alone from his very first day eating them from the inside. Naruto was sad. He always became sad when somebody mentioned about his home. But he had gotten used to it. Being alone, dealing with the world on his own, looking out for himself. It wasn't like he wanted to do all of this alone, it was because he had no choice. He had no one else to look out for him. He had no one to greet him when he came home. He had no one to wake him up in the morning and make him breakfast. He had no one who would pick him up when the day was over. And only he knew how much he wanted someone to be there for him every time he had nightmares, every time that he was afraid, and every single time when he was sad. Naruto looked up, trying to mask his sadness, and saw the people around him in shock and grief. He looked at his master who had his eyes closed and head bent down. And then he looked at the fourth Hokage and the beautiful lady staring him with empty eyes and void expressions. They almost looked on the verge of breaking down. He always got words of sympathy or a sad look from anyone who he unfortunately had to tell about it, and he was expecting the same out of the people present here. But why are they looking sobriquet? It was like someone they knew was gone forever. And why are they so sad listening about it? No one else ever was. Hey you guys, it's okay, you know. I never saw them. So, I don't actually remember them. And I've been living by myself for so long now. I'm completely fine with it. You don't have to be so sad. Before he could finish his sentence, he found himself in the arms of the red-haired lady who was crying her heart out. She hugged him tightly and wrapped her arms around him, completely enveloping the small boy. Little drops of tears fell on his blonde hair as the red-haired lady embraced him in a protective motherly hug. Naruto was startled by the affection showed towards him. He never experienced something like that before. It felt surreal. He could feel the warmth, the affection and sorrow in the embrace. He didn't know how to react. But he didn't resist either. He didn't know why, but it made him forget his sadness. He was filled with warmth and it made the sorrow go away. Imi, Sasori, Naruto. He heard the lady say these words while she was sobbing, still hugging him tightly. He was surprised and at the same time confused hearing these words. Why are you apologizing? It's not your fault. You don't have to be so sad about it. I'm okay, really, I promise. Naruto urged, trying to hide his emotions with a smile. Kushina reluctantly released a hug, placing her hands on Naruto's shoulders, looking down, trying to control her tears. Naruto, still not able to understand the situation, looked at her sadly. Why was she so kind to him? Why does she feel so familiar? Why does she care about me this much? He didn't know the reasons, but a small smile made his way to his face, seeing that someone cares about him this much. He just met her a day ago, yet she still is sad for him, she cries for him. Naruto looked up and saw the fourth Hokage's face bent down, covered with his blonde bangs. He was surprised again when he took a closer look and saw tears flowing down the Yondame's face. Naruto was taken aback now. The fourth Hokage. Why is he sad too? What's happening here? Hey, what's the matter guys? Why are you all so sad about it? I told you right. I'm fine. Come on now, I promised, didn't I? Naruto tried to lighten the mood a little. Kushina and Minato wiped their tears and regained their composure a little. Minato stood up a little straight and Kushina controlled her sobs. It is time Naruto, we have something to tell you. Minato said calmly, but his distraught mood affecting the words a little. I know it's too much to ask, but please try to believe us. Naruto was worried a little now. What could be so important? He wasn't sure if he was ready for it. What is it? Naruto asked worriedly. Naruto. I think I didn't introduce myself till now, did I? Kushina said, smiling half-heartedly. Naruto tilted his head, confused. Introduce. Ah well, I don't think you have, Naruto replied, trailing off at the end, still confused. Well, I'm Kushina, Naruto. She took a long breath and a pause. Uzumaki Kushina. Why? Naruto took some time to let the information sink in. When it did, it blew his mind away. Uzumaki. You're in Uzumaki. But Sandane Jiji told me I was the only one, then realization dawned. Kushina was looking at him with worried eyes, her tears hadn't completely dried off from the previous incident. Nervousness filling her mind. Minato's situation wasn't very different. But he waited patiently for the outcome. He had made up his mind to face it. Naruto's eyes went wide and he was dumbfounded. He was staring off in space, finally comprehending what that meant. He was the only Uzumaki in his time. But this time is different, but what if? There are other Uzumakis around this time? Naruto asked, with a hint of fear in his voice. He readied himself for the reply. No Naruto. I'm the only one, Kushina replied, looking at the 12-year blonde. That was the last piece of the puzzle. Naruto finally connected the pieces. He was speechless. He looked at Kushina with the same expression he had when he heard the words from her mouth. Are you telling me? He couldn't say further. His lower lip quivering, his face etched with realization. Yes Naruto. Minato came towards the child and knelt down beside Kushina, facing Naruto. His heart pounding. This was it. We are your parents, Naruto. He said it, he finally said it. It was like someone lifted a stone from his heart. He felt blood rushing through his veins. Because now was what they were really afraid of. The couple looked at their son with fear and worry marked on their face. You are messing with me, aren't you? A tear rolled down Naruto's cheek. He wasn't ready to accept it. He just wasn't. How could he? This all seemed so convenient. He survives alone for 12 years. And then suddenly he's sent back in time. And the first people he meets turn out to be his parents. Kushina and Minato reached for the kid. They held his hands tightly. "No, Naruto. Why would we? I know it's hard to take in something like this, but. But what? How can you even say this? There's no way. You're the fourth Hokage, aren't you? There's no way I am the Hokage's son. There's no way." Memories of his bitter childhood flooded his mind. Demon. Monster. He should just disappear. The Hokage's son. Why would they treat me like that if I was the Hokage's son? Minato and Kushina had tears in their eyes. They expected Naruto to react like that. And they completely understood it. But still, it made their hearts ache, seeing their son in such a turmoil and not being able to do anything. If this is supposed to be a joke, then it's not funny. Naruto was crying. Tears flowing down his eyes, he was crying his heart out. He longed for parents forever, and when he gets a chance, he isn't able to believe in it. "We know, Naruto. It must have been hard, all by yourself. But, what can we do now, other than making it up to you? We don't even know the reason why we left you alone, Naruto," Kushina said, with tears in her eyes. "We understand if you resent us. You had to grow up alone. If only we knew the reason for all this. We're sorry, Naruto. We're sorry we weren't there for you to see you grow up. We're sorry we left you suddenly." She was cut off in between by the little blonde, who was now in her arms, hugging her tightly. His tears rolling down his face and his head rested on her shoulder. "Then don't love him again ever." He finally let out his true feelings, dropping his masquerade. Tears of joy rolled down the couple's face. They couldn't believe it. It was over. Their son, he had accepted them. Their hearts were filled with joy and happiness. The feeling was inexpressible. Kushina pulled her boy back, wiped off his tears and looked at him fondly. She kissed his forehead and then hugged him back tighter. Minato wrapped his hands around his family, embracing them, crying tears of joy. "Never, Naruto, never." Kushina pulled her boy back, wiped off his tears and looked at him fondly. She kissed his forehead and then hugged him back tighter. Minato wrapped his hands around his family, embracing them, crying tears of joy. "Never, Naruto, never." This was a dream come true for the little blonde. Being in the arms of the people who love you, comforted by them, and most of all, the fact that these people were none other than his parents. Parents, the one thing he craved forever. It was sudden, totally out of nowhere and unexpected, but nonetheless, it was soul satisfying. The feeling of love, that is. Naruto was in no mood to think what he has gone through in his childhood and who was responsible for it. Actually, he didn't want to think about it. He knew the fact that it was the fourth Hokage who sealed the demon inside of him, and for the most part of his life, he didn't even know about it. And when he knew about the demon fox inside him, he didn't bother to think why and how. It was maybe his ignorance or his will to keep moving forward. And he never really loathed the Yondaime for this. Some thoughts did cross his mind and he felt sad. But he shrugged them off, like always. Since the fourth was his hero. He grew up admiring him. And he knew one thing for sure, the man in front of him now, holding him in his arms, loved him. He can see that clearly. Naruto never was one for complex thoughts anyway. He was content with the love he got now. After what seemed like forever, the new family reluctantly let go. They all had tears in their eyes. Tears of joy. The always calm and cool Hokage was a little emotional now. His sentiments overcoming his calmness. And he wasn't really bothered by it. He silently vowed to give his son all the love he deserved and to make up for everything Naruto had gone through in his 12 years. Never in her 24 years had Kushina ever felt such emotion welling up inside her. Everybody who knew her had always seen her to be this carefree, cheerful and brighter than the sunshine person. No one could have ever guessed that she was the jailer of the most feared existence humanity had known. She never knew that she could shed so much tears for someone. Then again, she never knew that she could love someone so much other than Minato. She looked at the kid in her arms and she could instantly tell that this kid was a part of her. She wasn't really a mother yet, but she knew that this boy was her son. Naruto wiped his tears and looked at the people in front of him, his parents. He had a smile on his face, but his eyes were still a little teary. "I'm glad to meet you, Mom, Dad." The words felt alien to him at first. But after saying them out loud, his heart felt so warm and light. He finished his sentence with a bigger, warmer smile. The couple's heart almost skipped a beat hearing that, "Mom, Dad." It was an inexpressible feeling. The words made them realize that they were parents and they could only smile brighter than ever hearing these words. "We're glad to meet you too, Naruto," said Kushina, gently ruffling Naruto's hair with a smile which literally mirrored Naruto's. Minato smiled and nodded, noticing the similarity between them. Jiraiya smiled listening to the conversation. He had left the room to give the family some time alone. He was leaning on the wall outside the hospital room, listening to them. He was glad. The couple were really close to his heart, like his children, and he was worried about this whole situation. But now, he was really glad that everything turned to be good. He entered the room with a smile on his face and eyed the people present. He saw smiles, joy and some tears. Well, that was to be expected anyway. Well, looks like everything's fine I think. Jiraiya cheered trying to lighten the atmosphere. The trio turned towards him and chuckled a little. Yeah. Hero Sennin. Kushina exclaimed grinning, using the new nickname she got for the Sannin from her son. Jiraiya deadpanned while the room exploded into laughter at the expense of the Toad Sage. Not fair. Even you? Jiraiya shouted looking miserable. All the happiness he felt just a moment ago washed away like sand in the sea. Damn that little brat. Anyways, it seems like you know me, isn't it kid? We met before. I mean in the future. The nickname got Jiraiya thinking about it. How did this kid manage to give him a nickname? Yeah. You're my master Tobeo. Naruto said flashing his foxy grin. Everyone was pleasantly surprised by this. Jiraiya especially. He was Minato's teacher and his son's too. Man, he felt old. He wasn't bothered by it though. He didn't exactly know why, but it seemed like he took some responsibility towards Minato's son. He was happy, nonetheless. Minato and Kushina too were glad to hear this. Minato had utmost respect for Jiraiya as a teacher and a shinobi. He couldn't be happier that Jiraiya was the one to teach his son too. Even Kushina, who came to know Jiraiya through Minato, was initially happy hearing that. But she suddenly remembered what Jiraiya really was famous for. What? Jiraiya-sensei is your master, Naruto. Don't tell me. She looked in worry and horror towards Naruto and glared at Jiraiya. Jiraiya felt a chill run down his spine. He knew exactly why he was at the receiving end of the deathly glare. But it was in the future wasn't it? Though he would try to educate his pupils in erotica, which was his main forte, he hadn't really done anything as of now. Hey. I haven't done anything yet. The future me is his master. Why am I being glared at? Jiraiya defended himself nervously. Nobody would ever want to experience Uzumaki Kushina's anger. And he was no different. Kushina sighed considering his words, but was soon panicking. But what if Naruto gets corrupted by Sensei and his research? He's too young for all this. What if Sensei takes him on his research trips? And he's always going to these hot springs to peek on women. Don't tell me Naruto. Has he taken you for any of his trips? Kushina turned towards her son, holding him by his shoulders with a worried look on her face. Minato smiled nervously knowing about Kushina and her panic attacks. She always gets so anxious when she's worried and starts talking fast. And she won't calm down until she gets rid of whatever is worrying her. Naruto chuckled on seeing his mother like that. He was getting to know his mother little by little now, and with every passing moment, he was getting to know that she was an amazing person. She came to know about her future son hardly a day ago, and she's already worried so much for him. Naruto never had anyone worrying for him this much before, so he was experiencing something like this for the first time, and it made him feel happy, really happy. Well, he did take me on a trip. Naruto said with a smile much to Kushina's horror. Jiraiya visibly tensed on hearing that, worried about his fate at the hands of Kushina. What? Kushina was panicking once again. Her fears coming true. She could only think of one thing that could possibly happen if someone went with Jiraiya on his trips. And the last thing she wanted was her kid being exposed to this world at such a young age. She glared at Jiraiya with her fist curled up, who almost shrunk into the corner of the room in fear. But it was an actual mission to Bayo. A very important one. He also helped me in training. Naruto hurriedly continued realizing the situation going against Jiraiya. Well, it was true that the Iro Sennin went to these bars and clubs and was almost drunk every night, but they did go for a mission to get Tsunade back, and of course, he learned an awesome air rank technique in the process. Kushina blinked a little on hearing that and visibly snapped out of her red-hot habanero mode. Oh, is that so? Then I think it's fine. She sighed hearing Naruto's words and calmed down, much to Jiraiya and Minato's relief. Naruto could only giggle at the reactions of the people around him. This all seemed so surreal. There he was 2 days ago, in his apartment, alone, and suddenly, he's around all these people who seem to take interest in everything he says. This was so much better. So, this is what it's like. He was snapped out of his thoughts by Minato's voice, and when he looked up, he saw all eyes on him, with a concerned look on their faces. What's the matter, Naruto? He looked up at Minato, and was puzzled by his question a little. Nothing. He stopped midway when he blinked and realized that his eyes had gotten moist a little, again. He wiped them hurriedly, not wanting to look like a crybaby. Damn. When did he get so emotional and sensitive? It's nothing. Naruto, regaining his original self a little, smiled at them. Minato and Kushina gave him a soft smile. They knew exactly what had happened. And that made them a little sad. Seeing their own child like that, getting overwhelmed by these little things. Minato ruffled Naruto's hair affectionately. Well, it's okay then. He said, respecting Naruto's emotions, with his ever-radiant smile. Now that things have settled a bit, I would like to talk business now. There are a lot of unanswered questions in all our minds. Same goes for you, kid. It would be better if we clear them up. Shall we? Jiraiya said, crossing his arms before his chest in a normal tone. The trio straightened themselves a little and nodded. They all had to figure out how Naruto ended up here in the first place. And secondly, the things they have come to know about the future were not so pleasant. It worried them. Before that, as we all know, time travel isn't a normal phenomenon. It's probably the first time something like this may have happened. We don't know about the implications it may have on the future. Jiraiya explained in a serious tone. Whatever the implications, but with Naruto being here itself may have changed the future. Needless to say, we have come to know about some information that we probably shouldn't have. No matter what we do now, we can't change that back. The future as we would have known is most probably changed now, if that's possible. Minato put forward his theory, with his one hand on his chin thinking about the situation. Kushina and Jiraiya nodded in affirmation. Naruto took some time to process this information and nodded along with them. He didn't exactly understand all of it, but he got the gist of what was going on. So why not make most of it then? If we can learn something useful from the future, then it's only going to help us in the long run. It doesn't matter if we learn more about it now, does it? What do you say? Jiraiya proposed, convinced of his theory. Minato thought about it for a moment. It did make sense. He was still a little doubtful about disrupting the flow of time, though. But upon thinking hard, he came to a conclusion that it may prove invaluable. And the most important thing of them all, there was a chance that he'll come to know about what exactly happened to him and Kushina. And if he could, he'll definitely change it. For his family, for Naruto. Kushina instantly agreed to Jiraiya's proposal. Her first priority right now was to know about Naruto and his life until now. She wanted to know what had happened to her and Minato that resulted in Naruto being alone for these 12 years. Naruto, now figuring out exactly what was happening, was nervous now. In the midst of all these emotions, he forgot about some really important things. First, he didn't really want his parents to know about his childhood. Just thinking about it made his heart wrench in sadness. And the second, the reason why his childhood was ruined. He always saw the fourth Hokage as a hero. He was his inspiration. And now, knowing that the fourth was his father, was nothing less than a dream. His happiness knew no bounds, but at the same time, the fact that he was in a way, a reason of his rough childhood, made him sad. These contradicting emotions were battling each other in his mind at first, but when he saw his father, worried for him, comforting him, he couldn't help but think that there was more to it than he actually thought it was. It was at that point that the happiness inside him overcame the feeling of sadness inside him. He didn't know why the fourth sealed the Kyuubi inside him, but he knew his father won't do something like that without a reason. And he'll wait to know why. But now, he was worried a little. Worried about how his parents will react on knowing about the Nine Tails. He had just come to know his parents. He already saw the guilt on his parents' faces when they knew about him being alone. He didn't want them to feel miserable about it again. But sadly, he knew there was no escaping this. He had to tell them. Sounds good to me. Minato finally agreed. He looked at Naruto and said. So, what do you think, Naruto? Sounds okay to you? He asked cheerfully with a smile, not noticing Naruto's nervous expression. I need to tell you guys something before that, Dad, Mom, Hiro-senin. Naruto picked up the courage to say it. He had to say it. There was no better way. The people around him were taken aback a little first. They noticed Naruto's expression and tensed. They knew something was wrong. Minato waited patiently though, observing the tension in the air. What is it, Naruto? Kushina asked softly. She felt the tension rising and had a bad feeling about it. Nonetheless, she tried to keep Naruto at ease because whatever he wanted to say seemed to be very important. Jiraiya frowned his eyebrows a little. He had a feeling that something big was coming and it won't be good. I am a Jinchuriki. I have the Nine Tails sealed inside me. What? No. No. But that's Kushina trailed off at the end. And just when she thought of making up to her son, her mind went completely blank. The words reached her brain, but her heart won't accept it. Jinchuriki, that was one burden she never wanted even her worst enemy to possess. She kept the demon inside her for almost 16 years now, only to be passed on to her own child. She was hoping someone to wake her up in case it's a dream or a horrible genjutsu. Minato just stared at his son in disbelief. His eyes widening, looking at Naruto in shock. He had seen Kushina suffer because of the Kyuubi, mentally and physically, before. It was heartbreaking, since there wasn't much that he could do for her. He clenched his fists as hard as he could. The same suffering, passed on to his son. He wanted to know why and how. Sadly, he didn't know what was about to come. Kushina kneeled down in front of Naruto. Holding him by his shoulders. She didn't look at him. She was looking down, still not able to believe what she heard. Naruto was miserable. That was exactly what he was afraid of. He was feeling heartbroken, seeing them like this. "Mom," he started but was cut off in between. "Byakuno since when, Naruto?" Kushina asked in a shaky voice, still looking down. "Since I was born." He didn't want to answer that. He didn't. "Who left you alone when you were born? To live by yourself, to fight by yourself. And left you with this, with a demon inside you. Just what kind of parents did we turn out to be?" She couldn't hold it anymore. When she thought she was done with the bad news, she was greeted with another. She was crying, clutching Naruto by his shoulders. She felt like the most horrible person on the face of the earth. Naruto didn't know what to do. He was feeling broken. He was standing there, unable to do anything for her. He couldn't take it anymore. He just let himself in her arms, trying his best to comfort her. Hey, were you saying something like this, Mom? You didn't even know until now, right? It hasn't happened yet." He fell short of words. He never experienced something like this before. He wanted to tell her it's okay, but he didn't know how. He knew it wasn't her fault because this was the past. How was she supposed to know about it? The same went for his father. He looked at him and was met with a face reflecting shock and disbelief. Minato somehow forced himself to calm down. He looked at Kushina and he felt shattered. He wasn't doing well himself though. Guilt consuming him yet again. He snapped out of it and saw Naruto looking at him with worried eyes. His heart wrenched seeing him. He had to grow up as a Jinchuriki, alone. How worse can it get? Kushina let go of her son and seemingly calmed down. She was feeling really down. She didn't know if she was blaming herself or fate itself. She now just wanted to know how this happened and why. Minato knelt down before Naruto. He kept his hands on his shoulders and took a deep breath to calm his emotions down. "Naruto, do you know how this happened?" Naruto gulped in nervousness. This was it. He was giving himself false hopes, hoping that he wouldn't have to answer this. He didn't have any choice. He had to tell him. "The fourth Hokage sealed the 9 tails in me when I was born. The fourth Hokage sealed the 9 tails in me when I was born." There was a pause, a really long pause that ensued, with people just trying to absorb the words spoken by the little blonde. When the information sunk in, their faces contorted into shock and disbelief, trying to decipher what that actually meant. "Ha, Naruto, you do know that Minato is the fourth Hokage, right? Your father is." Kushina was shaking after she heard Naruto. She let off a smile, trying to falsely convince herself that Naruto has made a mistake. That it was actually a slip of the tongue. She, however, stopped when she saw Naruto. He was looking at his feet, his fists clenched, with a look of fear and worry etched on his face. He didn't say anything, but his face gave away every answer she needed. Kushina stopped convincing herself then and there and let her mind take in the information. It felt like a nightmare. The only difference being that she was very awake. Her eyes widened in shock and she clutched her clothes as hard as she could. Naruto was made a Jinchuriki by Minato, his own father. Being a Jinchuriki itself is a fate worse than anything, but being made into one by one of your own. She wasn't blaming Minato. Because she knew that whatever he did, he always did it for a reason. But at that point, she was unfortunately finding it difficult to think of one. She trusted him though. She always did and always will. She dared herself to look in Minato's direction. If she was having such a difficult time accepting this, she could only imagine how Minato must feel. She turned her head right and looked at Minato who was kneeling beside her. She almost gasped at seeing Minato like the way he was. Minato was looking at Naruto, but at the same time he wasn't. He was actually staring off into nothing, with his eyes almost bulging out. His face had lost color, looking really pale and lifeless. It was void of any expressions though, like a statue. Kushina felt her heart racing in worry and she reached out for Minato, gently placing a hand on his shoulder and trying to shake him out of his stupor. Minato. She called out for him with her voice trembling a little, shaking him twice and hardened her grip on him. Minato finally snapped out of it, much to her relief. She visibly calmed down and took a deep breath. Her body was still trembling a little. She had received too much bad news and it was starting to take a toll on her. She looked at Minato who now bent his head down, with his blonde hair covering his face. She flinched on seeing him like that because that was not Minato. No matter what the situation, Minato was always calm and cool and he never let emotions take the better of him. She gently placed her hand on his shoulder, believing in him and hoping that he somehow will get through this as well. To her relief, Minato looked up, visibly regaining his composure a little. Unfortunately, though, he didn't look very different. He still had that void, expressionless face, but his eyes had softened a little. She knew it must have taken all his courage and will to bar the negative emotions in his mind. She was proud of him. To be able to hold back his true feelings for the sake of his son. She looked at Naruto and her heart melted. She knew what it was to be a Jinchuriki. But she had no idea what impact did this whole thing have on Naruto. Would Naruto find it in himself to forgive them? Ever? Why did things have to go like this? Why Naruto? Why her son? Her eyes moistened a little, but she held the tears back for now. She was worried about Naruto. And Minato. She glanced at both the blondes and just prayed to the Almighty to make things right. I don't know what to say. Minato finally spoke up, breaking the silence. His voice, a little shaky, but unusually calm considering the situation. Naruto looked up at his father with the indifferent worried tense look he had all along this time. Naruto, I may not have the right to ask you now, but still, I want you to believe in me. Minato held his son's hand and looked him in the eye. Naruto looked at Minato with a puzzled look, unaware about the meaning behind the words. We left you when you were born, all alone to deal with the world. And on top of that, burdened you with possibly the evilest being that exists. And now, I come to know that it was all done by none other than me, by my own hands, your father. Minato took his eyes off from the other blonde, sadly realizing the depth of his words. I have no excuses, Naruto. I've failed you as a father. Minato reluctantly allowed a tear to escape his eyes. Naruto didn't know what to say. He was battling with himself to negate the words his father said or accept them. He was starting to hate himself for that now. On one side, he knew that the man before him now had no idea whatsoever of anything that happened. And he wanted to tell him that. But on another side, his mind couldn't stop remembering all the hate, all the sadness he had to go through his life till now. But what I do know is, I would never do anything like this to my son if it weren't for a reason. Minato looked back at his son, with his voice stronger than before, filled with a strong sense of belief that he had in himself. Like I said, I probably don't have the right to ask you this now, but I want you to give me a chance, Naruto. I want you to believe in me. No matter how, I will find out the reason. And I assure you, all your questions will be answered. It'll be up to you then. I hope you find it in yourself to forgive me. And no matter what your decision will be, I'll gladly accept it. Minato finished with a glimmer of hope in his voice. And he meant every word he said. I know that already, Dad. Minato and Kushina looked at Naruto, shocked and surprised. They thought they misheard it at first, but when they saw Naruto's lips curl into a small smile, their hearts leapt up in hope. I don't think I understand all of it, you know. I'm not really one for complex things. I'm a little dense when it comes to these things. What I do understand is that I believe in you, Dad. I don't know why, but I do. Minato didn't hold back himself this time. He let some tears escape his eyes this time. You know, you were my hero since I was a kid. I always looked up to you and always wished to surpass you. I wanted to be respected by all the villagers like they respected you and wanted to be awesome like you were. The fourth Hokage was my inspiration to become Hokage. Naruto said, letting off a grin. Minato was just staring at his son in disbelief. His heart pounding hard in his chest. He listened to every word Naruto said like it was a dream. His tears escaping his eyes a lot faster now. It was like a miracle. He wasn't there to see his son grow up, to raise him, to comfort him. But still, he was his son's hero. He was something that every father wished their children to feel. He couldn't be happier. It was hard for me though, when I ended up here and knew about you and Mom and realized all this stuff. I was actually stuck between all my feelings, until now. But when I heard you say what you said, I was suddenly very sure. And it's the truth, Dad. You haven't really done anything yet. And about the future, yes, I'll wait for it. I'll wait to get all the answers. I don't know what they'll be, but I'll believe in you. Naruto finished with a bright smile. He let out everything he had in his mind and he couldn't feel lighter and positive. Minato wiped away his tears and he couldn't help but smile at his son. He was touched by what he just heard and he never felt so thankful. He reached for his son and took him in his arms, hugging him tightly. Thank you, Naruto. He couldn't say anything more. Naruto just held on to his dad. This feeling, what was this feeling welling up inside him? Whatever it was, it filled him with joy. This embrace, it was different from his mother's. The latter was gentler and a little warmer. Nonetheless, this one felt safer, stronger, and there was no difference in the love that it contained. He just let himself sink in this feeling, hoping that it wasn't a dream. Kushina watched the two blondes and her heart leapt in joy. The scene was so heartwarming, it almost melted her. She watched them, with love and warmth in her eyes, and just hoped this moment will last forever. The duo pulled back after some time, with smiles on their faces. Minato placed his hand on top of Naruto's head and gave a warmer, brighter smile. Naruto returned the gesture with a big smile of his own. The three of them finally got up, with hearts content for the moment. Jiraiya, who was watching this, couldn't be happier. He'll never say it out loud, but he was really glad. And he wished they'd stay like this, forever. Hey kid, I think it's probably time for your discharge for this place. I'll go down and find about it. Jiraiya said with a little smile and made his way for the room door. Thanks, Iro-sennin. Naruto chirped at him, making the couple smile. Whatever kid. Jiraiya pouted a little, but didn't mind the nickname this time. He actually kinda liked the boy. He didn't seem very smart, but the way he answered Minato and handled the situation impressed him. No wonder he agreed to take him in for training. And for the fact that he was named after the character from his book. Jiraiya didn't reveal it to anyone yet. But the fact that Minato and Kushina decided to name their son after the character from his book touched him. That made him the kid's godfather, after all. So, what do you say, Naruto? Wanna head home? Kushina smiled at the boy. Naruto looked at her, a little taken aback. Home. For him, the old empty apartment had been home. Every time he stepped in there, he was reminded of his loneliness. He never really liked it. But now, he was looking forward to see what a home really feels like. He was a little nervous though. Nonetheless, he was happy. Sure. He said, returning the smile. The couple were aware of Naruto's feelings. Especially Kushina. She had an idea about how it feels to be in a new place. It had taken her some time to adjust to Konoha and to finally feel home here. And she will try everything possible to make Naruto feel that way. Jiraiya returned to the room shortly. You're all good, brat. You can leave. A few formalities to be completed though. Make sure you fill up some paperwork at the reception, Minato. Minato visibly flinched on hearing paperwork. All the pending documents and files came flooding in his mind. With everything cleared up here, he'll have to go back to his office tomorrow and deal with the damn sheets of paper. Oh, of course, the paperwork. Minato's sweat dropped and let out a deep sigh, much to the amusement of the people around him. They let out a small laugh at the poor Hokage's condition. That reminds me, Minato. We'll have to deal with the council. We can't keep this hidden from them anyway. The sooner the better. It'll be best to inform the council about Naruto. I can do that for you. I'll let Sarutobi-sensei know about this. Jiraiya informed Minato, who nodded in agreement. Certainly. I'll call for a meeting tomorrow for this situation. We'll see what happens. Minato replied, quickly assessing the situation in his mind. Anyways, thanks for checking out for Naruto, sensei. We'll be heading home now. Why don't you come over for dinner? Nah. Thanks for the offer, Minato. I'm kinda busy, you know. I'll be going out for my research now. Jiraiya grinned perversely and was thinking about his research session already. Eh? You're going to peek on women again. You were always the same, weren't you, you perverted old man? Naruto let out a shout, pointing accusingly at Jiraiya. That's called research, you brat. HMPH. What do you know anyway? And I'm not an old man. Jiraiya shouted back at Naruto. Oh right. You're not that old this time around, are you? Naruto said, casually putting his hands at the back of his head. Kushina grinned proudly at Naruto for accusing Jiraiya. She was glad that he wasn't influenced by Jiraiya's perverseness. Minato just smiled at the little blonde's antics. Of course I'm not. Anyway, I'll be taking leave now. See you guys later. Jiraiya exited the room to go for his research. Well then, we should leave too. Said Minato. The duo nodded at him and they exited the room. Minato finished up the paperwork at the reception and soon they were out of the hospital. Naruto took a deep breath when he came outside. He had been in the hospital for almost 2 days. He looked around the place and observed that the place hadn't changed very much. It was Konoha after all. The streets were buzzing with activity. People chatting, having fun. Looks familiar? Kushina asked Naruto with a smile, to which Naruto nodded instantly. Yup. It hasn't changed much to Bayo. It's a little different, but everything's mostly the same. Naruto replied, surveying his surroundings. I see. Well, home's this way. Minato pointed and they started walking. People, on seeing the yondaime, bowed in respect, with greetings from all of them. Naruto looked on in amazement. He felt a sense of proudness towards his father as he realized how much he's respected in the village. And there was one more difference he noticed. People were not glaring at him. They weren't looking at him with hatred and nor were they sending him looks of disgust. Though the glaring and staring had stopped quite a bit since he graduated, it was a good feeling to not be seen as a pariah. Naruto smiled sadly, comparing these two scenarios, and wondered how his life could have been if this happened during his time. He then felt a hand on his head, ruffling his hair gently. He looked up and saw his mother smiling softly at him. He wondered if he was that predictable or it was his mother who seemed to know what he was thinking. He just smiled back brightly at her, shoving the other thoughts at the back of his mind, relishing the love and attention he was getting. Here we are. Exclaimed Minato, coming to a stop. Naruto looked at where Minato was pointing and his eyes widened in amazement. It wasn't a very big mansion or a big manor. It was a rather normal house, slightly bigger than the others. But it had a welcoming feel to it. He observed each part of the exterior and couldn't help but smile. So, what do you say, Naruto? Kushina exclaimed cheerfully at the little blonde. She observed Naruto's eyes and the change in his expressions. She could tell he was feeling a little overwhelmed by all this. But she had already vowed that she'll make Naruto feel at home at any cost. She'll give him the love he deserved. She wasn't there for him in his 12 years. But Naruto is here now and she'll do everything she can to make up for it. It's wonderful. Naruto exclaimed back, mirroring Kushina's smile. Naruto's home had always been his small one-room apartment. The place which reminded him of how lonely he actually was. The endless nights when he used to curl up in a ball and cry were just a part of what he went through. And come morning, he had to fight the urge to break down and toughen up his exterior so as to hide what actually lied beneath. However, it was now that he actually came to know about what home really is. Naruto woke up in the morning when the sun had just come up, marking the start of the day. He opened his eyes and his heart skipped a beat. The happenings of the previous day flashing in front of his eyes. He hurriedly got up and looked around hastily, only to feel relieved. It wasn't a dream. He was afraid it was. But it certainly was real. He smiled, looking around the room in which he was. The room was quite spacious, without any unnecessary decorations and furniture. An almirah at the far left corner, a night lamp on the small side table beside his bed, a good-sized mirror at his right were some of the prominent things he saw. The room was well lit, with salmon-colored walls adding to the elegance of the simple yet beautiful room. He let out a yawn, still feeling a bit sleepy. It wasn't like Naruto to be up so early unless it was for a mission. When finally out of the usual morning grogginess, his heart felt warm knowing where he was. It wasn't his lonely apartment. It was someplace much better. He got up from the bed, stretching a little. He was wearing an oversized t-shirt and his usual orange tracksuit pants. Kushina insisted on him changing out of the orange jacket, which looked really uncomfortable for sleeping. He finally settled for one of his father's t-shirts and it was decided that they'll be shopping the next day. He was brought out of his thoughts of the previous night by a delicious aroma that filled the room. He headed towards the door and climbed down the stairs, following whatever it was that made his appetite twofold. He entered what looked like a well-set kitchen and saw his mother stirring something in a rondo pot. He just stared for a little while, with some unknown emotions lurking in his chest. But they were pleasant ones, he knew that much. Just at that moment, Kushina turned towards him and smiled a big warm smile, instantly cheering him up. "Good morning, Naruto. You're up pretty early. Quite the punctual one, huh?" Kushina said cheerfully. Naruto just smiled, sheepishly rubbing the back of his head. "Not really, Tebeo. I'm not usually up at this time. It's just today, I guess." "Ah. And good morning, Mom." He finished with his usual foxy smile. Kushina just smiled back at him. Naruto looked at the pot, reminded of the delicious smell. He ran up beside Kushina, taking a peek inside the pot with glittering eyes. "Wow. It looks so amazing. And smells amazing too. What are we having, Mom?" He asked with his typical hyperactive tone, excited about whatever it was that made his stomach growl. Kushina grinned, seeing the excitement on Naruto's face and was elated by the praise her cooking was getting. "Well, you will know soon enough. It's almost done. It'll be ready by the time you freshen up." Naruto nodded in affirmation, putting his hands behind his head, grinning, "It'll be so much better than cup ramen, Tebeo." Kushina's smile faltered a bit, knowing that her son had nothing but cup ramen for breakfast. She however kept her composure, not letting her feelings show on her face. "That explains why you're so short, Tebane." Kushina grinned teasingly, roughly messing up his hair. "I'm not that short, Tebeo." Naruto pouted, putting his hands on his head. "Yes you are. As delicious as ramen is, you shouldn't have it all the time. Anyways, I'll be making sure that you eat properly to grow tall and strong." Kushina stated authoritatively, crossing her arms in front of her, leaving no space for any arguments. "Okay," Naruto pouted again, not really satisfied with the decision. "Good." Kushina cheered up instantly, ruffling his hair. Naruto grinned back at her and made his way towards the bathroom to freshen up. He came back to see his father entering the house. Minato was dressed in a blue tracksuit and sweating a little, indicating that he had been off training. He glanced around and saw Naruto coming out of the bathroom. He smiled at the little blonde and Naruto smiled back. He ran at the door, seeing him, curiosity taking the better of him. "Morning, Dad. Were you training? So early in the morning?" Naruto asked curiously and excitedly, clearly amazed seeing the genius fourth Hokage also had to train. "Good morning, Naruto. Well, yes, I was training." Minato answered, smiling at the hyperactive blonde. "Whoa. So early in the morning. But you're super strong, right? Where are you training?" Minato just let out a small laugh at the blonde's antics, clearly amused with his son's questions. Kushina smiled at the bombardment of questions that the little blonde just let out. Minato patted Naruto's head affectionately before answering. "Well, you see, Naruto, I don't get much time during the day because of my Hokage duties. So I make sure to train regularly so that my skills don't get rusty. No matter how strong a shinobi is, he should train from time to time to be in top form. You never know when you'll have to fight." Naruto heard attentively and nodded in understanding when his father finished. "Well, why don't you join me from tomorrow then?" We can train together." Naruto's eyes instantly gleamed with happiness on hearing the proposal. Training with the yondaime, training with his dad, only a fool will turn down such an offer. Hell yes to Bayo. He started jumping around, just thinking about it made him happier. Minato just grinned at the jumping blonde. His cheerfulness was contagious after all. "Hey dad. I'll show you an awesome jutsu that I learned from Iro Sennin." Minato looked at Naruto with a curious expression, eager to know what Naruto had in store. "You know it pretty well anyway to Bayo," Naruto said, really excited to show off his skills. "I do? Well, why don't you show me now in the backyard then?" Minato said, seeing the excitement in Naruto's eyes. He understood the fact that Naruto was eager and he himself was eager to know about his son's skills. Naruto sprinted his way to the backyard with Minato following him. Kushina too made her way to the said place, curiosity taking the better of her. Naruto stood firm on the ground and sighed deeply, taking in the fresh morning air. He made a hand sign and a clone popped up beside him. "Shadow clone. You can do the Cage Bunshin, Naruto?" Kushina asked with amazement in her voice, seeing how a 12-year-old was able to do a Jonin-level jutsu with such ease. Yeah I can. I know it like the back of my hand to Bayo," bragged Naruto with a grin on his face. Kushina squealed with pride seeing her son had managed such a high-level jutsu at such an early age. "Of course you do. You're in Uzumaki Tebane," Kushina said with a smile of her own. Minato smiled and nodded in appreciation at the smaller blonde. "That's really something, Naruto. Even some Jonin have difficulty in maintaining a clone like that. Well done." He had a thought in the back of his mind though. Who taught Naruto the Cage Bunshin? Because he knew Jiraiya didn't teach his students the jutsu at that age. He left the question for a later time though, focusing on his son at the moment. The two Narutos grinned sheepishly at the compliments, rubbing the back of their heads, feeling joy at being appreciated. "Well then, let's do this," announced the original Naruto, pumping his fist in the air. Just then, the clone started moving his hands over the originals, forming a blue sphere of chakra. Minato's eyes widened on realizing what Naruto was doing. He looked on in amazement as Naruto completed the jutsu and the clone popped off existence. "Rasengan. Naruto, did you?" Minato muttered, staring at the perfect sphere of chakra, the very same jutsu that he spent 3 years to complete. He felt nothing but pride and awe, seeing that his son had taken on his jutsu. "Yeah. I mastered it. It took me a whole month to Bayo," Naruto exclaimed with self-admiration, seeing the expressions on his parents' faces. "In a month? You mastered it in a month?" Minato inquired in shock, comprehending what his son just said. "That's amazing, Naruto. It took me 3 years to complete it. And you mastered it in just a month," Minato stated with a proud smile on his face, marveled by what he just witnessed. "Hell yeah. He's my son after all." Kushina screamed in happiness, hugging Naruto fiercely, nearly suffocating him. She finally released him after realizing he was going to pass out. Minato ruffled the little blonde's head affectionately, his heart swelling with pride. "Good job, Naruto. You really are something," announced Minato with a small grin on his face. Naruto was literally overwhelmed by all this. Appreciated by his parents, appreciated by the legendary fourth Hokage himself, his father. It all felt too good to be real. He just nodded in happiness at them, feeling nothing but satisfaction. "Well then, it's time for breakfast now," announced Kushina. The blonde duo nodded and made their way to the table, with the shorter blonde practically running to finally end the wait of tasting homemade breakfast. "Your food is the best, Mom," yelled Naruto while savoring his food, much to Kushina's delight. "Well thank you," grinned Kushina, completely flattered by the compliment. "I don't need ramen every day after all," said Naruto, making Kushina and Minato chuckle. The rest of the breakfast time was spent the same way, chatting with tidbits of amusements. Minato was sitting in his office, dressed up in his shinobi attire and the Hokage coat in the tower. He wasn't really looking forward for work today because of the pending documents and paperwork, and he wanted to spend some time with his family too, now that they had one. But even he knew there was no escaping that. And he also had an important meeting to attend to anyway. Just then, he saw his secretary come through the door. "Hokage-sama, the council meeting is about to begin." Minato nodded in affirmation and gestured her that he'll be right there. He may not be looking forward for work today, but he surely was looking for this meeting. It was about Naruto, after all. He exited his office and made his way to the council room. The other council members were already present when he entered, and everyone settled down after paying their respects to the Hokage. The council consisted of the regular members, as always. The heads of each clan from the Leaf, mainly, the Nara, Akimichi, Sarutobi, Yamanaka, Inyazuka, Aburam, Hyuga, Uchiha and the other prominent clans. Among the other members, there was the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura, and the advisors of the third Hokage, Hamura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane. There was one more addition to today's council meeting and Minato was surprised but more than happy to see who the person was. The representative of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Kushina, was also present today, sitting along with the other clan members. Minato smiled at her, knowing why she decided to attend today's council meeting. She never graced the other meetings with her presence because the atmosphere was too boring and suffocating for her. The old geezers should sort out matters by themselves, she said. Kushina grinned back at Minato, completely aware of what Minato was thinking. Well, if it isn't Kushina. It's quite a surprise to see you here. Kushina turned towards Hiruzen, who had a knowing smile on his face, with a tobacco pipe in his hand. Today's meeting is of importance to me, Sarutobi-sama. I had no choice. She replied with a neutral expression with a small smile gracing her lips. That I'm aware of. I heard it all from Jiraiya. Quite the peculiar case, I have to say, pondered Hiruzen, taking a sip from the pipe. Well then, let's get this meeting started. What if Naruto knew his parents from childhood? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.